Hey everybody, this is Royal with Soul of a Writer podcast. I am here with Solae Dehvine. She is just an accredited writer, about 96 ebooks on the market currently, quite a few paperbacks as well, and 3 audiobooks. She is the creator of the Right to Live podcast, as well as intentionscare.com. She's an entrepreneur, a serial entrepreneur outside of even writing books as well, and just a pretty well gifted author and podcast speaker. So, welcome to the show, Solae Dehvine. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me. I've been excited all week about this, so I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. So, number one, I just want to kind of highlight your past and your background in writing. So, what was the very first? Do you remember the very first story that you ever wrote?
I do. I remember the first story I wrote. I think so no, I'm scratch that. I don't remember the very first story I wrote.
Sure.
I wrote my very first poem at I believe it was in first grade. I won this
Okay.
poetry contest, and I think the very first thing I wrote, I was probably about 10, but it was a story, and I remember just having a actual physical dictionary by my computer. I had this like old PC my mom had,
Yeah.
and I tried. I don't remember what that story was about, but when I really got serious about writing and I first started, I think I was how old was I? I was in my 20s sometime, and I was just at work. I had this job at Boeing and the accounting department, and I just
Wow.
had a story in my head, and I just wrote it, and that it went from there.
That's the key. You said you just wrote it. You just wrote it. You
Yeah,
didn't
I,
do analysis paralysis or anything. That you just wrote it, right?
I'm an avid reader, and I've been thinking about this story at work, and my husband and I had talked about starting this website.
Okay.
So let me back up a little bit.
Sure. Yeah.
Tell me if I get too long, because I
No,
can
it's
explain.
okay. Completely
Okay.
okay.
So I was working and as an accountant, and I got laid off from my job at Boeing.
Mm,
And while I was laid off, my husband was taking a course on building websites, and it was an online course. So while he's taking it, I'm kind of looking over his shoulder, and I'm like, that seems really easy. So I decided to take that time, and I started a website. And I was trying to think at the time, what was something that, because I always had in the back of my mind that I wanted to write. And I remember being in college and having a lot of thoughts. Like I would literally wake up in the morning and the first thought in my head would be that I need to write something. I hadn't
wow.
really wrote anything besides that poem and trying to write that little story I told you about when I was 10. So fast forward, laid off, trying to figure out content for this website. And I was like, why don't I write some stories? So I got called back to work, but one day I left work and I was like, I got to get some content for this website. Like, to hell with this job. So I went home and I started a little bit of it at work, but I came home, lay down on my living room floor with my laptop, and I wrote the rest of the story. And that's What's Done in the Dark.
What's done in the dark.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So very first one, you just wrote it. Did at that time when you wrote it, did you have a daily word count goal or anything like that, or you just straight up just
Just
went through it,
writing.
just
I
writing?
wasn't I wasn't planning, I wasn't plotting. I was really going off of the fact that I love stories that move. I
Okay.
love stories where there's constantly something going on. And I wanted to put that out. And that's my whole preface, was a chapter, and for it to be as climactic in that chapter as possible. And I would take those chapters at first and put them on the website, put them on Facebook, and I got this small following. I
Right.
did that for a year, Monday, Wednesday, releasing another chapter, very climactic, very just crazy chapters
Oh,
to keep
dope.
people
Yeah.
on edge. And then after that year, I had sort of a fan base, and that's when I started actually publishing.
All organic, just organic fan
Yeah,
base from the job.
yeah.
And about what time, about what year was this? Like, was this before? You said it was during Facebook. Was it before Twitter? Was it before Instagram too, and everything?
No, it was 2010 when I
Okay,
started
okay, okay,
writing.
got you.
Yeah,
Okay, that's right. Yeah, you've been writing for since 2010. Okay, cool.
yeah, yeah.
So this is even still even before massive amounts of virality, like people going viral with hundreds of thousands of tweets or reposts or shares or anything like that. It's just straight organic, but you built that dedicated fan base. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't. I was very not gonna say ignorant, but I just didn't have a big scope of how big things could be. I heard
Right.
about a few people in the news, but I didn't know of how big
You were
or
you were dialed in and you did the work.
yeah. And then at first, truthfully, this was Kindle was very first starting their self publishing platform in 2010.
Okay.
So when I got into it, it was very new. There were people talking down about ebooks, and we could talk about that later, but
Yeah.
yeah, it wasn't a popular thing.
Okay. So what propelled you into the next one? Like after you finished that one and you got feedback, did that, give you that motivation to do the next one? And then now look at you, 100 something books in now.
Yeah. Well, my prolific drive came from my mother
Mhm.
reading books to me. Like, I didn't realize it at the time, but what she was doing was trying to hone in my love for writing. So she would be reading like a romance book, like a Danielle Steele, and
Yeah.
we'd be at the kitchen table reading it, and she'd read a couple of pages, and then she'd hand it off to me to read as she's doing whatever in the kitchen. And I just remember looking at Danielle Steele's books and thinking, wow, she has so many books. You look at that front page,
Yes.
all the titles. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I want more book. I mean, as I got older, I'm like, I want to write books and I want to have more books than Danielle Steele. Not realizing that she has a lot of books, but I probably have more books than her
Yeah.
now
Yeah.
published.
Yeah.
But that's where I wanted to go. So when I wrote What's Done in the Dark, it's just if you ever get a chance to read it, it's just full of stuff every chapter. So people really wanted to know what was going on. So What's Done in the Dark has about 5 parts,
Hmm.
but I didn't write them all in order. I
Okay.
think after What's Done in the Dark came Passionate Desires, which is now called I changed the title. It's called Abducted by Lust.
Hmm.
You see that's what I was talking
Yeah.
about
So
earlier. Is
let's talk about your book title. So you were saying, before we got on this podcast, you were saying, originally some of your titles were a lot more, they were deeper, kind of more philosophical. But now I guess it's for SEO purposes? Is it also for it to catch the eye, catch that mindset, and it's for marketing as well? So
so,
go some of your book titles, just rattle some of them off and
oh
see if
man.
I know that will pique some of our listeners' interest.
Okay, so you have Main Chick versus Side Bitch,
Oh my
Side
God.
Chick Memoir,
Yep.
Down Low Cartel, Down Low Love, The Plug's Wife, The Plug's Mistress.
Yeah.
Uh, God, I'm trying to think. Savage Bitches.
And some of those books are three-part series, right?
Yeah, some of them are 3, some of them are 4.
Okay.
I've just went through a lot of my thoughts on how many parts to make a series. I
Yeah.
think my next book is going to be though The Devil Sent a Scorpio. It's probably
Wow.
gonna be my next release. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Do you have a time frame on when that's going to be released or?
So this book I've been holding on to for probably about 2 years.
Okay.
I've got the cover for it. I know what it's going to be about, but I've always wanted to release it in Scorpio season.
Got
So
you.
Scorpio season is upon us very
Yes,
soon.
it is.
So I'm probably going to release it sometime in November
Okay. Sounds
2020.
solid. Good. Yeah. I'm so speaking of releasing, so on your website has everything essentially. It has everything about you, has all your books, everything is pretty much direct to consumer.
Thank you.
So when did you move from the Amazon to direct to consumer, or are you kind of doing both? And which one's preferred in your opinion?
Preferred for me is direct to consumer. And the reason why is that I started with Amazon when it was a lot more lucrative for the author.
Okay.
And then probably about 2015, I believe they moved to the Kindle Unlimited model completely. And that changed things a lot. It changed the buying behavior of consumers. So I kind of changed with it. I never have really been able to go all in with the Kindle Unlimited model. I was there's some hierarchy and some things that take place on Amazon where people kind of mislead or use the system, and that's on every platform.
Yeah.
But I was seeing that I was not able to gain an edge, so I started looking for other platforms. I've always diversified and been available in the most places I can be.
Hmm.
But for me now, using tools like Shopify is what I use for my bookstore. It just makes so much more sense for me to own the data. The data is the most important thing to me. So to have an email list, to have a text marketing list, and to know the people that purchase my books, I have their email. I
Right.
know what books they like. That's important to me. So I could come completely off of Amazon and still be profitable. But I think so that's why I don't give too much stock into them. I want to own my business.
I mean, and that's the same reason why Amazon and Jeff Bezos, one of the reasons why he's so wealthy, because he controls or has access to a massive amount of data. He knows what his consumers like. They
Exactly.
buy a widget off of Amazon.com. There's always other suggestions. There's algorithms. They know. And then
Mm-hmm.
on a much smaller scale from Amazon, you, Solae, have your own website where, like I bought a book this morning from her, and my email might pop up on your email list, and you say, oh, well, he bought this book, so therefore he might like this other one. So therefore I have an email list catered towards those types of likes, and I will send that out, and he might be a repeat consumer.
Yeah.
So that's the idea of it, correct?
That's the idea. And you'll see marketing. I can segment different readers based off of what they like my side chick book people, or like I have a paranormal books.
Okay.
I can segment people by what kind of books they like, and I can send out different emails to those type of people. Because my side chick book readers might not like the BBW books or the
Right.
BWWM books or the down low books.
Right.
All these people aren't the same people. That's why I kind of write a diversified group of books. My thoughts are infinite, so I write about all kind of different things. But those people I can't market to them the same. That's why it's so important for me to own the data so I can know how to market to people.
100. That's amazing. That's my goal as well. So I'm looking up to you, and I can definitely learn from you. So
Sure.
this to that, I went on your Instagram, doing some research, and you just have all of your Instagrams right now are reels pretty much, which I thought was pretty dope.
Yeah, reels are big. I need to do more
Yeah,
of them. I'm slacking. I'm behind. I need
it's
to do.
okay, but you got some good information. So you had a video on there. It's probably maybe in the past couple weeks or so, I think, where you were like, how do you write? You're asking, somebody asked the question, or on your post, how do you write? What do you do? And you just said, I wake up, and you literally get up and you just say, I set my word count and I just write. That's how I push out my content. So
Yeah.
kind of elaborate a little bit more on that.
Well, okay. In 2015, so when I first started writing, like I told you, I was still working in the professional realm.
Right.
I've been back and forth in that with layoffs and whatnot. But what has sustained me is my writing and my publishing business. So in 2015, I gotten laid off again, but I was seeing I started writing a different type of book. I started writing BBW books, which a book that you purchased earlier today is like that. I
Yeah,
think that Bigger, Better, Wetter.
that's correct.
Big, beautiful women books is basically were very popular at that time.
Mhm.
So I wrote one, and I was actually at my new job, and I'm checking my numbers, and my numbers were just crazy. I
Wow.
literally walked out of the job.
Really?
It wasn't paying me as much as a previous job, and I was like, I can make that publishing. So I just went all in, full go, publishing, not doing anything else for money for 5 years. I was all in with my business.
All in. Yeah.
So at that time, I was getting into different groups and seeing what other authors were doing. And they would have word counts like 3,000 words a day, 10,000 words a day. They were putting out 2 and 3 books a week. And I was like, I'm listening to their numbers and I'm looking at it and I'm like, shit, I want that. So I made it my priority. If this is my job, if I do nothing else, I can get 3,000 words done a day. I can
Yeah.
get 10,000 words done a day. And that's where it came from. And that's where the huge spike in my list, my catalog came. I
Right.
think one of those years I did like 37 books one year. But it was just about me trying to keep up with the demand and keep the business at a high level that I would, this is my income. That's what I was living off of.
Right.
So
Right.
that was my whole goal.
That is amazing. So speaking of your books, which one of your characters is your favorite character, and which one of your characters do oh man, I hate that character, or I do not like the way you wrote him, or either like, if I were to meet this character, I would slap him or her in the face.
I think got like 2 favorites. What's Done in the Dark is like my baby. It's my first real,
Right.
published book. So there's a character in there by the name of Terry, and then he has a brother named Courtney. I really love them, and I think a lot of my fans love the Burnett family. That's the family name. It's a whole tree of them and some mess. I just really love them, and I think they go through a lot, but they're misunderstood in ways, and I try to break that down. That's really my goal in my books, is to show you that there's more than one perspective to life and to people.
Absolutely.
But one of probably my scariest characters would be, gosh, he's from the What's Done in the Dark series. What is his name?
You got so many.
But let me tell you who he is.
Yeah.
He rides through the city in this like non the script, you won't notice this vehicle, but it's a high-end SUV, all black, tinted windows. He's inside smoking a cigar and he's calculated, he's maneuvering the city. You would think him as just like a nondescript old man, but he plans murders. He takes
Mm,
people out. He's into a lot of crime organizations, but he also can speak to the people. He's a politician.
mm.
Can't remember his name right now, but he's like in the fifth book of What's Done in the Dark.
That sounds scary right
Um,
there.
yeah, he's a character.
That
But
is.
I've got a large realm of characters and people in my books, but they're people that you know and meet every day. They
Yeah.
have another side to them.
That's what I was going to ask. Do you draw inspiration from real life for your characters, or do
Oh
you kind of
yeah,
just all types of
totally.
information everywhere?
Yeah, I'm a good listener, and I think a lot of my friends and family and people around me put a lot of information on me, and I'm like, we got to get paid from this somehow.
Yeah,
I take
absolutely.
these stories and things that I hear, and they're not just one person, but they're just sort of like a montage of all the people and the things I've heard, and I make a story out of it.
Sure. So I'm still learning. Like, I'm new to writing. I've had, a story in my head for 15 years, and I'm about to finish myself, but I'm
Mhm.
still new to the whole business of writing and everything. So when you write these stories, and you put them on ebooks, do you copyright every single one of them? Do you get an ISBN for each one that you put out on your own? I'm new to it, so I'm learning too.
So what I'm gonna say is probably an unpopular opinion,
Sure,
and people are probably gonna say she's crazy. That doesn't make any sense.
sure.
But I follow the guidance of the people in this industry that are making millions a year
Mm,
from small print press or small publishing companies like mine.
mm,
And I've taken law classes, and I know whenever you produce something, it's already copywritten.
right.
It's already yours. So physically going and copywriting it and sending it to the copyright office is great if you need to sue for some situation. So no, I have 90 something books. I have not completely sent all of them to be registered in the Library of Congress.
Okay.
But I know the laws behind it. And that's why I did incorporate my business. That was the first thing I did, was having a business, getting a tax ID number, and building this up. As I think a lot of people like to think of publishing as this fanciful thing, like, oh, you're a writer, you wrote a book. That's great, but it's a business, and my
Yeah.
books are my product. So I think more than anything, oh, and as far as ISBNs, I use the free ISBNs that Amazon gives, or whatever retailer, because if I maybe was trying to get into Walmart, or I had another goal, I may do something different. But paying Boker, I think that's the company that does ISBNs, paying them for a block of ISBNs just made no sense to me.
Mm,
I don't know what I'm supposed to do with that. And I think some nonfiction writers buy ISBNs for sort of notoriety, or for to feel like they've I guess you can go to certain people and say, hey, I've published a book, I own my ISBN, and they can look that up and they'll put you at a certain stature and maybe
right.
hire you for gigs for speaking. But for me, for self-publishing for fiction books, it just didn't make any sense. So I
Okay.
haven't. And I know the people in the business that are making millions of dollars making more than me, they don't. So I
Mm.
just
They just
it's
push out
easier
the
for me.
content.
I just push out the content. It's so much content that I push out. It's just to put a purchased ISBN on my book is not going to sell more books for me.
Yeah.
And I went crazy in the beginning doing a lot of things that I thought I needed to do. And I'm glad I didn't do some things. Like, for instance, I'll give you an example.
Sure.
When I first started out, they had something called typesetting, but really even that word is outdated, because typesetting is for like a typewriter actually setting the keystrokes for a typewriter to print a
Right.
book. That's outdated. You're doing editing and formatting of a paperback and of a
Look.
paperback and an ebook.
Right.
People charge a large amount of money for this. And when I first started doing it, I didn't have the money to do that. I did it on my own. And I found out this is really simple.
Mm,
So you kind of have to go through your business and do what's best for you. But for me, it didn't make sense to purchase ISBNs.
okay.
Doesn't make sense for me to send 96 books to be copyrighted. Now, when I do my scripts, I copyright those
Right.
because I'm sending that to a company.
Right.
And some people may say I'm crazy. Maybe I'm wrong, but I know I've made money off of it. I know I haven't had any issues, and I know how to write letters or DMCA letters to get my work taken down if that's ever a problem.
Solid. So that was my next question is do you have any film? Are we gonna see Solae Devine's books come to life on the silver screen? or on Netflix at some point? I mean, if you have something in the works and you got an NDA, fine, I got it, I understand. But is that an aspiration at some point in
No, no non-disclosure agreements right now. That's definitely an aspiration of mine, and I've turned two of the books into scripts I've written myself. Um, but I think with this world of content and the
Yeah.
way that we can do anything literally, I want to do it all. And I think that kind of proves in the other things that I've done in my life and entrepreneurial aspirations. But as far as something else that you don't know about me, I have a media company as well. We do sports media mainly right now for the
Okay.
youth.
So
But I have the camera equipment, I've got the lighting. So the next move is to transfer that over to acting and getting these scripts made. But then COVID.
yeah, it's yeah. COVID and the pandemic has put a damper on a lot of things, but it can also make you more creative in how you go about your projects.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, what you remind me of right now, here's who you remind me of, and you remind me of both an Issa Rae and a Tyler Perry, because both of them they know. Oh,
Big. That's big. Shout out to Issa. Shout out to Tyler. I can't wait to meet them one day.
oh, you will,
Big.
you
Keep
will,
going. Thank you.
you will. And the reason why you remind me of Tyler Perry. So there's a clip, and I might share it with you on Twitter. You may have seen it already, but it's Tyler Perry, and he's talking to Kenya Barris. And I don't know if it was in Kenya's show, Black AF or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was a scripted conversation, but it was very realistic. So Kenya asked Tyler Perry, man, I just can't seem to get past this certain level. Like I want to please everybody. I want to please all audiences. And Tyler Perry pretty much says, I I know my audience. I really don't give a shit if other people outside of my audience like it or not. They buy my content, they love my content, they love the way it is. I can get it directly to them, and that's just the way it is. And you remind me, like that's you, like your audience. You built that audience for the past decade,
Mm-hmm.
literally.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what they like, and that's how you're able to pump out that content. Now, there are some folks outside your audience, they may not like that. Fine, it's not for you.
Definitely.
It's
Definitely.
not for you. And the fact that you're vertically integrated, just like Tyler
Mm-hmm.
and Issa as well. Issa is vertically, and she's hard. Like she is about
Issa,
to do everything. She's about to take over the whole world.
she's a monster. She's a beast for
Issa is
real.
a
I
monster.
she's really treading the path of what I want to do as far as getting into the movie industry. I
Yeah,
really appreciate that. Thank you. That's
that's
an
why
honor.
I asked that next question. Like, do you see yourself making movies? Because that's it. So how
Yeah.
is it different writing an ebook versus a script? What did you have to learn to make that difference?
Shout out to Christopher Nolan.
Mm. Hold on now. Interstellar is one of the best movies I've ever seen in my life. But go ahead.
There's two Christopher Nolans.
Oh, my
And
bad.
there's another Christopher Nolan, and then I
Yeah.
believe
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yep.
there's another Christopher Nolan who produces films. He's a director and he has his own company. But he reached out to me a few years ago, and I want to tell whoever's aspiring out there and like say this to you as well. I just put a snippet of a book out there on a post, and he contacted me like, "Hey, you've got it. I want to talk to you."
Damn.
That's what pushed me to like get my first script, hurry up and get it done. But some information he gave me was to keep in mind your scenes when you're writing a script,
Mm.
because you want to keep in mind the budget for the movie.
Mm.
So if you have over, like, let's say, I believe he told me 9 different locations, not scenes, I'm sorry, 9 different locations, then you got to think there's like setup for that. You got to get permits for these places. How is this really going to work? We got to rent these places out. So I try to keep the locations in mind, because I'm trying to keep the budget in mind. Um, I like things that are constantly moving, but that's different in reading versus actually putting it on film.
Right.
So it's it's totally different in a way, but I think the way that I write is conducive to easily maneuver to film because I write in this action-packed, something always happening way.
Okay.
And it might not be a conventional way, but it's made me a lot of money. So it's like I'd say all of that to say whatever you do, there's somebody out there that's going to like feel it, and you're going to be able to translate that and get it out there to them.
This is kind of a sort of kind of a sidebar, and I hope you've seen it. Have you seen Uncut Gems with Adam Sandler? It came out sometime last year. So that movie, and I know somebody
I have. Is that the one where he's the
he's
jeweler?
He's the jeweler, yeah.
Oh, it was great. I love that movie.
That's what made me think of that, because you said something is always happening in your books. With Uncut Gems, something literally was always happening, and it was almost anxiety inducing, because there were multiple things going on at once, multiple conversations, people saying different things. And that just reminded me, like you saying, that your books are always something going on. And that keeps the reader turning the page, or in the case of the ebooks, keep on continuing to scroll.
Yeah.
Man, that is dope. So what other tips do you have for up and coming writers, authorpreneurs? And I mean, heck, if we even want to get into the entrepreneur side, because we have not even talked about Intentions Care or any of the other businesses that you do yet. What tips do you have for aspiring authorpreneurs?
Okay, so those 5 years that I told you about when I was publishing and this was my only income, I think the biggest mistake I made at that time was not taking that money and investing it into something else.
Okay.
I was doing small investments. I had like an eBay store, and I was selling like some things I would buy from China. I would sell them, but it wasn't something sustainable. I wish I would have put my money into something more sustainable, so that the thing I do now is I take my profits and I put them into other things. That's where the trucking business came from, and where Intentions comes from, and a lot of other things I'm in. But my biggest thing was, take your earnings, put them into something profitable. And as far as getting the words out, don't worry about the people. I wrote what I liked. I wrote what I felt in researching what was going to titillate people. And I did that research. But if I went off of my reviews and what people said they wanted from me, that's not really what they want. Like in some of my reviews, people talk about books being too short. And I kind of take that as a compliment, because you want more.
Right,
but when I write longer books, it's like, oh, well, we want something else, and I want that. And I kind of lost myself. You can lose yourself in other people's opinions. And you're writing for consumers, and you want to make money off of this, but it's still art. And when you start thinking about that, it just it makes it agonizing, and it makes it hard to get the words out. So I would say don't depend too much on people's opinion. Depend on yourself. You know what's good.
Right. So I'm a huge hip hop fan. All right. I love J. Cole, Nipsey Hussle, all that. J. Cole said the exact same thing. When he put out his first 2 or 3 albums or so, he was kind of more worried about what the fans would think and what others would think. And until he put out 2014 Forest Hills Drive, like that's what, he focused on what he loved, his art, and just putting it out there. And that's when he ascended to like this megastar that we know now. And he can put out whatever the hell he wants now, because we know it's true to his style. It's true to him. Tells a story. So that's a parallel to that. In my podcast, to all my listeners and to you, I will probably continue to make kind of parallels to hip hop business and writing, because I think it's all kind of interrelated. So
I agree. And I got a parallel for you too.
Okay, sure.
So Lil Wayne did this documentary some years ago. I don't remember the name of it. I think it was just a Lil Wayne documentary. And I watched this documentary. I just had it playing in the background. I watched it for days. It's on repeat. And the reason why I watched it is his work ethic. He was constantly working and recording, and this was kind of chronicling him around that time when he had so many mixtapes coming out, one after the other. And I wanted to be the literary Lil Wayne. I wanted to bring out a bunch of content, and you would just never get old because there's something else that you can read. So taking that model and thinking of it like that, I was listening to what he was saying, and he was like, fuck what people want.
Right.
I know what I want. And I thought that if I could just keep my energy high, and I believed in what I was writing, and I was putting out a story that resonated with me, that people would feel that. And when I got that sort of energy and mindset about it, I think my business did better. And for me, the books that I harp on, and spend the most time on are probably the ones that don't sell as much. But the ones that I think are horrible and, oh man, I shouldn't put this out, but I've already put this deadline, this date out here. I put it out, they love it. So it's
Doing
like, it's no
numbers.
rhyme or reason. You're gonna drive yourself crazy for nothing.
Wow. And like I said, yeah, another parallel is, Currency, Larry June,
Yes, yes.
Zelda. Like those guys are just, I mean, Currency, I think Currency and Larry June have put out probably about 5 or 6 mixtapes this year. Like just constantly hitting people over the head with content
It's a
every
numbers
and they
game.
just continue and they cut little clips of the songs and of the videos and they just push it out like, oh, okay, COVID happened, so you can't get these big name producers to make videos. Guess what Currency does? Guess what Larry June does? They make them at their house.
Yeah.
They make them at the house. Put it out. Put out the art. Just freaking put it out,
Put
man.
it out.
Get it out there,
Yeah.
and and
Yeah.
and you'll reap the benefits. So, all right, intentions care. What is intentions care at intentionscare.com? What is that?
Oh man, I'm so happy you asked me about that. So the premise behind intentions care was just that your intention, and my intention behind it was I think that time and being alone and working for myself completely just in the house, in my
Mhm.
office, just cranking out these books. Um, I had sort of like a, what do you want to call it? I call it like a personal revolution.
Mm,
Personal revolution where I was processing a lot of childhood trauma
mm,
and I was coming to a point of healing. And there was a point in when I just couldn't write anymore at that time. Like it was just a lot going on. I just couldn't write. And thank God I have a big catalog and I don't think anybody said anything about it. They probably haven't noticed, but I was like really depressed.
mm,
And so coming out of that and understanding that I have extreme anxiety, I've just been looking for things to help with that. And so I was in a health food store and I found magnesium. And I
mm,
was looking into the benefits of magnesium, but I just hated the way the magnesium oil felt on my hands.
mm,
So I started making it into like a cream and it worked so well, like on aches and pains. And I started reading about that magnesium is beneficial to the body and integral in the body for your metabolism and different functions. So listening to figuring that out, I heard a podcast that was basically just talking about enterprise and starting business. And I had this thought a while back that I needed to figure out a product that I could sell besides books.
right.
I needed to find something that I could put in my books to sell, sort of as like a cross promotion sort of thing. So I was searching for that product, and when I heard this podcast, and it was talking about basically creating your own things and selling them yourself and making a lot of money doing it, and I'm like, well, I already have an audience in the books. I could easily slide these links in there to sell this thing.
Yeah.
What is this thing that I want to sell? And at that time, I was just so deep on healing and self-love and improvement. And the word intention was just really big with me, setting my intentions and manifesting. So I just, intentions care was the name that drew to me. Um, the logo is a butterfly.
Mhm,
My mother was pregnant with me. That song Black Butterfly by I think Minnie Riperton was out.
mhm,
And so that was my thought behind that. But our first product was the pain relief anti-anxiety cream called Just Chill. And now we've ventured into hair care. I'll be releasing those products probably by the end of the year. But just self-care items because I'm just big on self-care and loving
yeah.
yourself and healing. So that's what intentions is about. Just
I love
intent
it.
to heal and care. Yeah.
I love it. Intentionscare.com, everybody.
Yes, sir.
We're gonna post a link to that in the show notes as well.
Thank
So,
you.
and
Appreciate
links to all of her website as well, Solae Dehvine as well. So I mean, another thing that you do is trucking. I was scrolling on your Instagram
it.
and I
Man, it's
saw,
unbelievable. I'm still in shock about it.
yeah, like so I'm a I am not a part of LLC Twitter, but I am adjacent to LLC Twitter.
Mhm.
And some people call it that, but the entrepreneurial side of Twitter. And you got all these black entrepreneurs that are doing dope things. So you have Hood Estates and Truck and Justin with Trucks.
Yeah.
Who kind of, what was the premise behind that? Like getting into trucking, is it something that you just always saw that was needed? Or was it somebody that gave a tip, or you was like, go ahead, let's go ahead and just do it?
Yeah, well, it was a combination of all those things. Kind of, I hadn't always been into it, but a cousin of mine, about a year or so ago, quit his job in corporate America and got a CDL license.
Oh, wow.
And he started telling me and my husband about a sector of trucking, which you didn't need sort of there's a lot of regulations in trucking, and this sort of lane in trucking, it wasn't as regulated. So
Okay.
we could get in easily. So sorry.
Mhm.
Um, so we started researching, and at first when he told us about it, this wasn't something we moved on, but then when the pandemic happened and we were sort of a little bit more still, and I saw an opportunity to get a truck. And it's kind of crazy how it came about. I hope we got time to tell you about this story real quick.
Let's do it.
I actually used my business credit from my publishing company to
Mm.
co-sign for the trucking company to get a lease for the truck.
Levels, everybody. Levels.
I was amazed that I could really do it. But the
Yeah.
thing was, is that I started looking around for different trucks for us to do this. And I was seeing that I called Penske and I asked them if I could get a lease, but they said your business has to be incorporated for 2 years. And I was like, well, I do have a business that's been incorporated for over 2 years, but
Oh,
this trucking business is basically the trucking arm of that business. They're like, oh, people do this all the time. Okay. And that's what it was. And then
wow.
later found out that this isn't something that everybody gets. So it was sort of when I started seeing things like that happening and maneuvering, I just got really excited about it. We've been running for about 3 months now.
Look at
It's
that.
not something that I foresaw at all. But just being like on an LLC Twitter land and just
Yeah.
seeing that you can own all these different types of businesses. You don't have to be in it. I don't get in the trucks.
That's
I
what I
can
was
write
saying. Like,
about them.
what is your role in this?
My role is the owner.
You know? Okay.
I find the trucks and I get the drivers in the trucks, and then I dispatch the loads.
Man, I love it.
Mhm.
Multiple streams of income, multiple sources of
Yeah.
income. That's what you want to have. And I think that's dope. You have intentions care, you have about 100 or so books, or just I don't know. It's you've lost in a way, you've almost kind of lost count, but you have so many
I
books, so
have.
much
I need to
content
I need to do
out.
better with that. And I said I want to take each and every one of them and make them into a paper bag and print them out and put them on the floor and all that. Yeah, I have kind of lost count. My thing was just be prolific, just keep going. I didn't want to count. It didn't matter.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's the key. So, guys, before the show, I was doing my research, and I asked her. I said, "You got 96 books." She's like, "No, no." I was like, "No." I said, "You have 40 books," because I counted
Yeah.
on your website. You were like, "No, I think it's not about 96." It's like, oh,
Yeah,
I failed at doing my research, everybody. But it's just you
not at
got a
all.
lot of content, so
Yeah.
that's amazing. So, any closing remarks, anything else that you want to say, or even promote? I mean, like I said, I really appreciate you having coming on to the show. But any class closing remarks that you want to give out?
Man, I want to say to the authors, and I first of all I appreciate you having me on. I've been so
Sure.
excited about this all week. But what I've seen as I'm getting to like in the healing space and I'm learning more about anxiety and mental health, especially in the Black community, mental health shows itself in ways that we aren't looking for.
Mm,
And when you're an entrepreneur, especially a writer, and you're doing something it's so solo, it's so you have to get into a s- a solitude. I'm sort of like a hermit when I'm starting to write. I'm sort of reclusive.
sure.
When you get into that space, you're starting to battle yourself. And when you have issues getting work out or meeting deadlines, that's a part of mental illness. That's a part of anxiety. That's a part of depression. Don't ignore those parts of you.
Mm,
And it may take you getting therapy and seeing and checking into those parts for you to reach your success.
mm,
That's really what it was for me. As I
wow.
started to understand my childhood trauma, I was already successful and prolific, but I could have been so much higher had I saw those things earlier and addressed them. I really didn't know. It was like a blinder to me.
But
Um,
you sought it out, and in you seeking that out, you went to go seek therapy, correct?
yeah, and
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 that
that yeah, I
it opened
go
that up for you.
yeah, and it wasn't the only thing. It was part of a lot of different things that I've done, different therapy modalities I've done about my anxiety and depression. But I see a lot of authors are depressed and they do have anxiety. And to write the stories that we do, that comes from a place of trauma, to be
Mm,
so keen in on things. So a lot of authors have been through traumatic situations.
yeah.
So I would say, don't beat yourself up about not getting your book published or getting it finished or meeting deadlines. go within deeper and say, okay, what really is going on with me? And when you start healing that, you'll be more successful in your writing.
That that is a major key. I haven't actually heard anybody give that type of advice before. So that comes from a place of wisdom and maturity and experience. So
Yes, sir.
that's some good advice. I really appreciate that. So everybody, thank y'all for tuning in. This is Solae Dehvine. I mean, I'm super excited to have had her on the show. I was just following her for a while, and I was like, this woman is crushing it, all of her content.
Thank
So go to the website. It's in the show notes, SolaeDehvine.com.
Yes.
Go to intentionscare.com. She also has a podcast that I don't think we even talked about it. We got so much content out.
Yeah.
Right to Live podcast, the Right to Live podcast. And
Right
she
to Live podcast.
has two
Season.
two seasons out right now, right?
Yes, and season 2, the rest of those episodes will be out soon. I got a lot going on.
Hey,
Don't
no,
look
it's
for me,
okay.
but
It's
I haven't
okay.
uploaded some episodes, and there's some fire episodes coming.
She's already has some gems in multiple episodes that she has already on the podcast that you all can go back to listen to. It's even also really interesting because you can see kind of how as COVID started. I think you're one of your first episodes. You talked about COVID, and you're like, I think we're gonna be in the house for about 3 or 4 weeks. Yeah, no, wrong. Nobody could have predicted that.
Totally wrong about that.
Yeah,
But before we get off, I want to say this.
sure.
My publishing company did way better in COVID.
A lot of authors say that.
Publishing books is, I think, recession proof. When you
Hmm.
get into a recession and people don't have a lot of money, they do have a couple of books to buy. I mean, a couple of dollars to buy a book so they can escape mentally, but they may not have money to go on a vacation.
Right,
So
right,
that's
right.
what happens.
That's real. And I mean, that's why Netflix streaming has gone up, music streaming has gone up. And I mean, you also, you talk recession proof. You played that song, the Yo Gotti song on that trucking video that you
Ooh, I'm a little stuntastic. I'm sorry. I say,
had. I love that song, by the way.
but
So
it's real though, and you can.
it is a real song. Yeah,
We'll have to come back on. I have to have you on Right to Live when you publish your book, and we can
sure.
talk. But yeah, I appreciate you. But it's just about expanding not only your business but your mind. That's all I want to tell people
Oh,
about.
for sure. No, thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And everybody, just you can go to her website. She has so many books for you to choose from. There is something in your flavor for you to choose from. So thank you, Solae, for coming onto the show. And everybody, like and share this podcast, and tell all your friends about it. And the more folks we got on, the more folks that we have listening, we can touch somebody's life. We can, impact someone at some point in time. So thank you all for tuning in, and we will see you next week. All right, let's see. In this recording, I forgot how to end it, but that's okay. I will edit it out.